All right. Hello, Dawn, and welcome to the podcast. We're super excited to have you here and to talk about your job and the training that you've done with JoJo. So for those who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do here at DFPC?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Always fun. My name is Dawn Tollis. I'm the lead fire investigator for the Division of Fire Prevention and Control. My position was previously with CBI when Jerry Means held it, and a couple of years ago it transitioned over to the division, so now the division holds the fire investigation unit. Been in this position for a couple of years now, and just love my job, and of course the privilege of being an accelerant detection canine handler is just, cherry on top. It's such a great job. So I cover the entire state. It's always a fun job. I have a lot of windshield time as well, so get to see the great state. It's such a great job.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that in a few minutes. But to start, your career here at DFPC, it's certainly evolved from where you began to where you're at now. So what was the driving factor that got you into investigations? Was it the beautiful puppy that's right underneath here?
Taking a nap.
So
it was a combination of a lot of stuff. I've always had this kind of geek thing going with CSI and always wanted to be in investigations somewhere. When I came to work for the division, it was initially as an inspector, and I was able to learn how buildings went up and how fire protection systems help to protect these buildings and the people inside those buildings. But I wanted to know the backstory. I knew that fire codes were written because people had gotten hurt. Buildings had been lost. There was huge monetary loss to a lot of these buildings, and not to mention the human loss as well. So I started working backwards into why the codes were written and got into a lot of cases about the loss and the codes that were built around that loss to try and protect it and prevent it from happening again. Thus comes prevention.
Yeah.
But it takes investigation to be able to tell us that. So when I got into the fire side of things, I was able to kind of combine those two together and start doing fire investigations, and really started building my education behind that, kind of behind the scenes a little bit. And ultimately ended up in a role where I was able to do that as a career, and it's been great.
So when you talk about building your education behind the scenes, what does that look like?
A lot of training, a lot of classes. There are some resources out there that help us get into investigations and gain the book knowledge behind it. I'm good at book knowledge, but I honestly think that a lot of the training actually comes from boots on. So being on those grounds and being able to actually read the patterns and see the fire scenes, you just learn so much. And of course, having a good mentor is key.
Yeah. And who is your mentor?
I was lucky enough to have Jerry Means as my mentor. Shout out to Jerry. He's a great guy, and he's also the one that got me hooked on the idea of being a canine handler, and so shout out to him.
Yeah.
He's taught me a lot.
That's cool. So when you are called out to an incident, what does that look like?
So we are dispatched through State Patrol. We are dispatched out of the Pueblo office. That phone number is 719-544-2424. If anybody needs it, they will basically ask for contact information. All you have to do is request dispatch of the State Fire Investigator. They will ask you your contact info, and you provide that, and they'll call me and dispatch me officially, and then I will reach out to who my contact is and make sure that that's set up. So we're available really for a wide amount of resources. So if you don't have an investigator on your team and you need an investigation done, we can come in and help and do the entire investigation. We can come in and just be a second set of eyes in case your investigator is looking at something that maybe they're not as familiar with. There's also occasions where there's been a fatality or an injury of a firefighter, and the district that's involved is too close to that case, and they want to be able to take a step back and have somebody else do the investigation for them.
Interesting.
We've had occasions where it's just a really big fire scene and they just need resources to come in and help them dig it out. We're able to do all of that, and of course with having JoJo and our accelerant detection canine, if that is all that's needed, we can provide that service as well. So we do structure, we do wildland, we do auto fires, so we're able to provide some resource in a wide variety of things.
Do you go out with JoJo every time you're called out?
I do, and I do that because we just never know when we're going to need her. There's a point in time where a fire investigation goes to a point where we actually think now it's an arson investigation. And this is where JoJo comes in as a resource to be able to help and tell us if an accelerant or ignitable liquid has been used on the scene, and can confirm for us if we need to dig that angle a little deeper.
Oh, wow. Do you know how many times you've been called out this year?
I don't. It's and other investigators know this, it's very ebb and flow.
Yeah.
So I could be extremely busy. A couple of weeks ago I had 3 calls in one day, and of course one of the calls was 200 miles away from where the other one was. So we do a lot of traveling, but it just also depends on the severity of the scene and what's going on with the scene and what we have to prioritize. So she goes with me everywhere.
She gets a lot of windshield time too.
She does.
So for those that are interested in transitioning into investigations, what skills do you need? Do you feel like you need to be a fire investigator?
There's a lot of different aspects of it. I think a lot of people come from the fire side of things. I came from the analytical side of things. So detail is very important. Being able to convey what you saw to make people who don't do investigations understand what you're saying and what I'm looking at, and this is why, what caused this. Details are really important. You have to be able to read the patterns that are left, and sometimes you walk into a fire scene where there are no patterns left. So just being able to really articulate, I think, is important, making other people understand what it is that you're seeing that led up to your determination.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people know the difference between an arson investigator and a fire investigator. Can you talk a little bit about that?
They're kind of one and the same. A fire investigator and an arson investigator will come in, they'll determine the origin and cause of the fire itself. Depending on what we see at that point will help us lead whether or not we need to follow a road of we're looking at an intentionally set fire. Mm-hmm. And then comes in a whole array of other things, because now we're looking for people. We're looking to talk to people, to interview a little further, and sometimes even interrogate at some point. But that's also when it becomes critical that we're able to work with our law enforcement agencies and be able to communicate with them and work with them to be able to really come to a determination on what path we take from there.
Yeah. So JoJo, she's stretching right now, but you guys finished up training in May, right? Mm-hmm. Came back. How has she adapted to Colorado? And
she's a Florida dog, so I think this winter will be
a
test for her, but she's such an awesome dog. I think she's going to do great. Yeah, so JoJo and I went to training in New Hampshire for 4 straight weeks. It was all day, every day. In order to get our certification, we have to have a minimum of 200 hours of training. We logged 315 hours over 4 weeks, but it's brutal, but so worth it when you get through it. All of our dogs are assigned to us the first day that we're there. How they do that, I have no idea. It is magic. But I got paired with JoJo and worked with her for a straight month, and we've already been on several fire scenes where she's worked, and and alerted and helped us get to some determinations. So,
Excellent.
yeah.